Okay, so this intro is very long, and it gets a little personal, actually very personal, into my life. I normally do not talk about certain parts of my life because it is very dark and not easy for me to speak about. I do want to say that if you deal with your own mental health struggles, and you feel like your life is not worth living, please seek help. Please talk to people around you. Please reach out to any of the available phone numbers. I promise you, your life is worth living, and everyone around you cares about you and loves you very much. We all love you very much, and we appreciate you being here.
Here we go.
So, everyone has decided to follow in Zamoody's footsteps and create these emotional intros that explain their backstory. Like I'd ever do something as lame as that.
Hey, oi, no, you don't get to back out now. Come on, go.
Stop fucking being a drama queen and just do it. You know you're going to.
Well, Christ. You all don't make it easy, do you? Alright, fine. Not usually one for opening up, but you are my friends, and I need to learn to trust people more. But just so you're aware, things may get a little dark. Alright, so where do I begin? So my interest in art in general more or less started around the 5th grade when I started learning clarinet and played in my middle school's band. And for all of you non-American folk, that's right around age 9 or 10. Of course, I wanted to play drums, but I mean, who fucking didn't, right? So I stuck with it, and you know what? I really enjoyed it. And I was pretty damn good at it. And I'm not just tooting my own horn here, but more on that later. Clarinet was great and all, but it wasn't quite an instrument that would get the ladies, I guess. So for Christmas that very same year, I asked my parents to get me a guitar. My family grew up in a lesser middle class, so income wasn't all too good at that time. But come that Christmas Eve, my parents brought out a huge box and asked me to open it. Lo and behold, my very first electric guitar. I cried with so much joy and glee, hugging my parents like I wasn't gonna see them anymore. As soon as that was over, I immediately hooked it up in my room and started forcing myself to learn it. And oh boy, that was a fun time. All the finger pain and basic guitar chords that would make any Green Day fan orgasm at the sound. That's probably one of my better memories of my childhood, if I'm being honest. High school rolls around, I'm still sitting first chair in the clarinet section. I told you I was good at it. Still playing guitar, but soon afterwards I picked up a new hobby, filmmaking. This was around the time that YouTube was more or less in its infancy, with channels like Ray William Johnson and Smosh quickly rising in popularity. My best friends Ethan and Nick and I saw this and quickly became enamored. Our school library let us check out camcorders for school use, but we're almost dead set against personal projects. Fortunately, our geometry teacher was also the head of IT at the school and fucking loved us as students. So he put in a good word and they started allowing us to check them out. And boy did we. Our first short film was some ridiculous piece called Jimmy vs. Mr. Splinters. Believe it or not, there was actually a bit of me licking the bottom of one of my shoes that made it into that video. Don't ask why. I don't want to talk about it. After that, we continued making more and more art. Parodies of movie trailers, recreations of other shorts, more original work. It was so much damn fun. Oh, how I wish I could go back and just spend my evenings writing and filming. High school finished up, and I moved from Minnesota to Arizona, where I got to meet my biological father for basically the first time. I won't get into the details, but he wasn't around for my childhood and was attempting to make an effort to get to know me now that I had turned 18. He set me up with a job and asked me to come live with him for just about a year. Well, truth be told, I hated the job, I hated the area, I hated the heat, I hated living there. And this is when I came to realize that I was starting to develop some mental health issues that my family has been passing on for quite some time. I became severely depressed being separated from my original home and not doing anything that I enjoyed doing. So, a month later, and I talked to my father and said that I just wanted to go back home. And home I went. I felt awful about not sticking around and getting to know him more, but at the same time, part of me felt like it wasn't even worth it. This is the guy who created me and then abandoned me and my mom. It just it didn't feel right. So I moved back to Minnesota and started a job doing something I actually kind of enjoyed, fixing computers. There was a lot that happened during this time in my life, but I'm going to skip over a lot of it as it doesn't quite fit here. I started up a program in network administration. I got a job delivering pizzas, yada, yada, yada. And before you ask, no, I didn't finish. I made it a year in and realized that it just wasn't for me. It was helpful to know that kind of information to help with computer work, but it bored me to fucking tears. That and my job kind of forced me to miss class far too often, even though I told them not to schedule me on certain days, so it was either school or money. Well, luckily for me, I didn't get either, because shortly after I dropped out of school, I lost my driver's license due to an unpaid lack of insurance ticket, and I wasn't allowed to deliver while having a permit, so I was forced to quit. That didn't stay that way for long, though, because soon after, I started an IT job at a corporation that owns a well-known chain of restaurants. I'd finally found something I liked, and it paid really well compared to other jobs in that field of work. Well, at least I thought I liked it. It started off pretty decently, but it didn't last. I grew to resent that job wholeheartedly. Working far too many hours and dealing with people who genuinely hated your guts, despite the fact that you were only there to help them. It drained the life out of me. But I couldn't just quit. It paid the bills and gave me quite a bit of spending money on the side, so I'd be crazy to give it up. I should have just listened to my younger self, but it did not get any easier. 3 years in, and I was told I was being promoted. Sounds like a good thing, right? No, it wasn't. I didn't get any more pay. I had to forget about everything I had learned the past 3 years and start anew. There was no training, and my new manager was difficult. He wanted to solve everything himself and refused to share any knowledge with us. And that infuriated me. I take pride in my work always, and the fact that I was showing up every day to nothing fulfilling was gut-wrenching. There was a lot of other things going on at that time too that just made everything worse. My great-grandfather, who I was very, very close with as a kid, ended up passing away unexpectedly. A girl I really had a thing for and knew of that turned me down because I wouldn't agree to an ultimatum that I would need to stop talking to a friend of mine. My parents were on the verge of divorce because neither of them would just open up and talk to each other. I was in hell. I put on so much weight. My apartment was a complete fucking disaster. Pizza boxes were stacked up in my kitchen to the ceiling. I had no friends around me that I could see or talk to about this shit. I woke up every day wishing that I hadn't. I had literally lost all will to continue living at that point. And the crazy shit is, this lasted for 2 whole years. Do you know how awful it feels to wake up and wonder if today is going to be the day that you are going to end your own life? It's probably the worst feeling that I've ever felt. My depression and anxiety were taking over, and I was not taking any medication for it. I personally refused because I didn't want to deal with the side effects and the constant changing of meds every now and again. But not all was lost. I realized over time that I truly was sick, that I had a problem that needed to be dealt with. One day, I sat and I thought very hard about what I wanted to do with my life, and that is when I decided that I wanted to be an entertainer. So, on a whim, I stopped going to my job that didn't give a damn about me. I stopped talking to my supposed best friend who, at the time, treated me like shit and manipulated every situation that we were ever in, and I secluded myself from the world. This may sound like a horrible idea given my mental state at the time, but it was the only thing I knew. But trust me, it turned out to be a good plan. I decided that I would take an entire year away from working and just focus on myself. My best friends from school all went and got married and started having kids, and here I was, alone and lost. But then, one of them told me something I thought I'd never hear. You know, you have a really good radio voice. You should try getting into radio. Me? Radio? I hardly even listened to the radio, and when I did, it was the classical station. But it made me think, what was it about my voice that made it pleasant to listen to? That thought stuck with me for quite some time before I finally acted on it. The year 2020 rolls around, and I'm making pretty large strides in my mental health. I'd gone back to working and really felt good in my own skin after almost half a decade of hating myself. And wouldn't you know it, I come across a certain someone through Twitch Sings that I wouldn't be able to forget. She sang many duets with me. We started talking outside of the app more after realizing how much we had in common, and it only took 2 weeks for me to figure out what was going on. I was completely and utterly in love with this woman. Now, I know what you're thinking. Eldurrino, only 2 weeks? How can you be so sure? Well, listen here, you little shit. I'd been through enough failed relationships to realize what I wanted and needed in a partner. And she was all of that, and more. And after a wonderful online date of watching movies and talking and singing together, I finally did something that I'd never done before. I opened myself up to another person, and I told her that I believed that I was falling in love with her. And the best part is, she felt the exact same way. Holy shit, she probably doesn't know this, but I nearly cried out of happiness at that moment. It brought me back to my childhood when I first got that guitar. It was such a powerful moment. I froze in my chair, and I found it hard to formulate any type of words. And it's still one of the best, if not the best, part of my life so far. So we continue staying up past our bedtimes, sharing stories and memories, wishing we could be in each other's arms. We started talking about acting as well, as she told me about her experiences in the acting world and how some parts were easier than others. And while I certainly had acting chops from my youth, I recognized that that may not necessarily be for me, but around that time, things started to click for me. I had been developing my voice, I loved to act, and I loved to entertain. I could be a voice actor. I was still working on my self-esteem, but my amazingly inspiring girlfriend gave me that little nudge that I needed to start recording myself. I can't thank her enough for that. And then guess what fucking happens? Chat, I'll give you 5 seconds to type the correct response. If you guessed that a global pandemic came to fruition, you would be right. The world started to close its doors, and the love of my life and I were still over 1,000 miles apart. But I wasn't going to let that stop me. I wasn't going to let anything stop me from getting what I wanted anymore. So I drove 1,100 miles to see her for about a week, and it was so worth it. Everything about it just made so much sense. We started talking more about the future and agreed that we needed to make a move before this shit-demic got any worse. So after I went back home, I kept my eyes out for jobs in the area. Well, 2 months later, and I found one. And just a few days after applying, I got an interview. And just a couple days after that, I got the job. So I packed up everything I needed and moved halfway across the US. That brings us to the summer of 2020. I was doing my best to break into the world of voice acting, and I had the most incredible partner helping me every step of the way. I won't lie, there were certainly times that I thought of giving up just because of time or my own self-doubt, but I'm really glad I didn't. Zamoody was also there and was a pretty big inspiration to continue forward. Thank you so much for that, my wizardly friend. Soon enough, I started getting smaller parts in fan fictions, which then led to a few paid gigs, including an original song that has yet to come out yet, but you know what, here's a small sample. And so, here we are. Zamoody, Pashley, Renara, and I started a podcast. I'm finally doing something that I love doing. I get to see my favorite person in the entire world that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with every day. My mental health has never been better, and I've got a fantastic group of friends that all have my back. Life is pretty fucking grand. Before we get to the show, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. To those of you who gave me the chance to be my goofy self, to the Twitch Sings community that never let me give up on myself, to the love of my life who continues to push me more and more each day and supports me like none other, to my voice acting friends who are there with me on this insane journey and that inspire me to keep reaching for my goals, to you listening to this far too long of a rant. I care about all of you so much, and I would not be in this position if it weren't for all of you. You people are incredible and continue to give hope to a once lost soul. All right, enough of the fucking sappiness. Let's just get to the show. Take it away, Zamoody.
Welcome, everybody. My gosh, I can clear my throat after that one. Welcome to the podcast. That is an incredible intro by our very own Eldurrino. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. That was a lot longer originally, so I had to shave off about 11 minutes or so.
Wow.
But I'm really glad that I got to do that because it was very relieving, and it's again not something that I usually talk about with anyone, so it felt nice to kind of get that off my chest.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. It was incredible.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
And we've pretty much kicked this off, and it's a good note to have for yourself. So if you're feeling down, you turn around, you listen to this, and it's your own voice telling you how you got here, what you like, and it's going to be a good tool moving forward, I think, for all of us now. Obviously, elephant in the room, we bid Pashley an absolute great time. She is away, and she has decided to back away from the podcast, so we wish her very, very well. We will occasionally have her as a guest host as she's available, though. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and check in with everybody. Miss Renara Hawke, how's your side of the world doing?
It's all right. It's okay. I am 750 lines into my 831. So I am close to the finish line, which is like, oh, great. But it's all when you're close to the finishing line, it always gets just that little bit harder. So I'm just like going, right, come on, you got this. Everything. No, life's just been sort of getting prepped ready for September when all the students go back into schools and everything. So I've got that half on my mind a little bit. And yeah, just finding my feet on other things. Hi, Fire. Thank you, Fire. But yeah, no, I've been having a little bit of it, not an issue, but more a sort of thing of like, that I just can't seem to get this orc down yet. The Skywind seems to be asking a very, very specific type of voice that they want for orc, and I'm just missing the mark on a few of these things. But Eldurrino, you've said that you would help me figure out how to reach the graveliness that the orcs need. But other than that, it's just sort of been the same old, really. Getting back into doing the Assassin in the Desert soon, hopefully, because this is finishing. I'll be back to doing that. So I hope that my desert people are still around and still kicking and still are alive after the month-long sort of hiatus from that. But yeah, no, it's been good. Things are going okay. It's that precipice sort of moment of we're about to go into a new year. Let's see what's going on. New academic year, sort of thing for me. So yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Renara. So Grimm is our guest host today. Hello, Grimm.
Hello.
How has your time been since we last talked to you?
Busy. I'm quite busy. The pandemic has left me without a day job, but I've recently managed to secure one.
Nice.
Which is positive. The negative of that is until I actually finish learning to drive and get my own transport, it's a 2-hour journey by public transport. So that's going to be a bit rough for a little while. Until I get my own transport. There's that, as well as in the academic year, I'm going to be retaking a GCSE I don't have. So I've got that, my brand new job, learning to drive, and still my perpetual search to find more voice acting stuff to do. So busy. I found myself quite busy.
Well, busy is good. Hopefully it works out for you. You get yourself a good transportation to get around. Yeah, I know how long commutes go, so I feel for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dorino, again, thanks again for the lovely intro. How was your
Lovely
week?
is one way of describing it.
emoji.
No, my week was not too bad. I finally sat down and started cranking out auditions for voices.com.
Nice.
I did 10 of them. I only submitted 8 due to a couple of them I goofed up, and then it was of course the end of the deadline, so I didn't really have time to re-record, but that's fine. I mean, it was just a couple, so I'm not too upset about that. Yeah, that was really all that I did this week. My birthday was yesterday. I am now officially 31. Woohoo!
Wow.
So, yeah, we haven't. Well, I guess we kind of celebrated. We celebrated last weekend because we weren't sure what was going on this weekend. And that was just like went and played disc golf and got freaking poison sumac on my shoulder, which is getting better, thankfully. And then yesterday we kind of just relaxed and did nothing all day. We finished playing It Takes Two, which was a fantastic co-op game. I highly recommend playing it because it is very, very good, very fun. We played one of the We Were Here games, which very good co-op game as well. Yeah, and then just kind of relaxed and took it easy for once, which was very, very much needed. And then tonight,
always important.
Yes, absolutely. And then tonight, I am going out to eat at one of my favorite restaurants around here with Meg's parents and like her brother and such. And then I think that's really all I have planned for this evening. And then next week is just going to be more focusing on voices.com auditions and trying to secure anything through there.
Yeah, those voices.com auditions are actually really nice. I mean, it's like unlimited practice scripts. I mean,
well, and I really enjoy the fact that all of the public ones you get sent an email about. At first, I was kind of like, okay, I'm getting flooded with like 30 emails a day now. But at the same time, it's almost a good thing for me because I kind of struggle sometimes with getting myself just into the booth to do anything. And I feel like getting those consistent updates kind of like tricks my brain into thinking, okay, you have to do this now, which is good. I need that motivation. So I'm checking my email constantly to see if there's something that, shows up as like an 80+% match to my profile. So I can mark it. And then when I come home from work, hop in the booth and crank it out.
Yeah, I've learned to machine gun those after, you've looked through and you see what you want to do, and then you just stand in the booth, and you go down the list, and then you come in and edit them, and you submit them. So it's just good. I'm glad to see that you're getting some traction out of it.
Also, thank you to the people in chat wishing me a happy belated. Much appreciated.
As for me, I know last week I was a little scatterbrained, so apologies for that. Did a couple of voices.com. I still have a couple projects that I need to catch up on. I didn't mention that one of the things that I did from voices.com, which is called Escape the Algorithm, came out on YouTube. I tweeted about that about a week ago. That was actually the impression of another YouTuber that they wanted, and that's what that whole series is about. I love that they misspelled my name. Shout out to Prince Prodigy. Thank you for that. We've already talked about and getting it corrected for the next time around. My killer case study or killer case series is going really well on TikTok. I'm super happy about that. It's currently
awesome.
my creative outlet, and I'm starting. I involved Burnham in one of my intros last week, and I'm tapping Eldurrino for the next one coming up, and I'm looking forward to hearing what y'all come up with. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, we got a whole new shipment of computers. We're doing refreshes, so little to no time. By the time I get home, I'm exhausted. So we all know how that is. Another shout out to Orange You Glad, who again last week was still recovering from having surgery. I'm gonna have lunch with him on Tuesday, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'll say hi for all of you all. All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen so you all can see what what everybody else is going to be able to see. We're going to be talking about marketing yourself, and I ran into this video where I was watching voiceover Reddit. The gentleman, he goes by Crown Stag. We talked to him. We're going to have him as a guest in the near future. Hopefully we can work that out.
Already got a date planned.
Sweet. And he's given
Finally
us
another Brit, another UK person.
Yes. And he's actually given us permission to play his video, and we can talk about the topics as we go. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to play it in its entirety. We're going to be stopping at certain points. If I know, Renara, you've made notes. I've already watched the video. Eldurrino, I think this will be your first time. Grimm, I'm not sure. So if you want to stop.
I have watched the video.
All right, cool. You did your homework. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just raise your hand, let me know, or get my attention somehow, and we'll pause it and we'll talk about it. All right? All right, here we go. This is Crown Stag. And it's muted.
Great start, guys. Woo! Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Well, I was queuing it up, and it's like I was being all smart. Here we go.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Crown Stag Voiceover. My name is Neil Glasgow. In today's video, I'm going to be addressing one of the commenter questions that I had, which was really focused around how do I market, really a step-by-step guide to how they would go about marketing, because that ultimately is something that people are struggling to figure out, but also there may not be enough information out there. I'll try to make this as succinct as possible, but this may be a little bit of a longer video because I am going to try and break this down in detail. Any websites that I talk about, I'll put in the description, along with links to the websites or discount codes, affiliate codes, anything that I can dig up that I think will make things a little bit cheaper for you, because ultimately the way that I do things does have a cost, but it is effective, ultimately. So with that in mind, let's get into it.
Fancy.
So, marketing. It's a very important part, probably the most important part of your job as a voiceover, voice actor, however you want to describe yourself, outside of actually, being behind the mic. And to get the marketing done right is a difficult thing. And to make the marketing cost-effective and time-effective for you, especially if you're a one-man band like myself, getting that done right can save you hours of time and make you money. So I'm going to break it down step by step. The first thing that you're going to need before we even start the marketing is a product. And the product is going to be your demo. Now, whatever your demo is, whether you've had it done professionally, so you can go and you can pay a studio to produce a demo for you professionally. I've done a video on a basic studio demo, so go and check that out if you haven't seen that. It's the demo that everyone can make. It's just a basic studio demo, and everyone can make that for free. Or you can use a more professional sounding demo that you can create, and mostly it's for professional work that you have done, but I use a website called Storyblocks, and that allows me access to royalty-free music, sound effects, production elements essentially, and that allows me to create demos for myself, but also demos for other people, and render them and master them to a professional quality. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, again, and this isn't plugging other videos, but you can go back and look at my Reaper for VoiceOver Part 3, and that will walk you through how to master your audio files so that they sound professional. Okay?
All right, so I'm going to pause it for a second only because we do want to discuss. Let me get this. That's not a very flattering face. There we go, buddy. So we've talked about demos a lot. Storyblocks, obviously, very, very interesting site. I will be checking it out. Has anybody looked into this one yet?
I have had a
Not yet,
brief
no.
look at it, and it looks good. I will say that. It's it requires, I think you need to have an account or some description to actually get into it and do stuff. But if it is as good as what he's, if it is for what he's saying it is, that is going to be a lifesaver for any creative, to be honest, in my opinion, because finding royalty-free music, I mean, we've had that issue already with Cold Read. So I have. Yeah, I have bookmarked and will go more into detail of that later to have a look at that sort of thing. But no, it looks good. It looks like a pretty good place.
And of course, I did want to always point out that we have mentioned in the past that we consider always waiting to do your demo. Don't do it immediately when you start. Get some experience behind you, because you're going to learn how to edit your audio. You're going to learn how to clean it up. You're going to learn how to stop the popping and the clicking. So just give yourself a little time. Don't get too impatient with that. It is important, and especially if you want to start marketing yourself, just don't do it until you're ready.
And I would like to also add, as I have found out literally today, the VA community on Twitter is very helpful, because I put out a tweet saying, because Crystal gave me some links to people to help me with my demo reel. They unfortunately aren't available. So I basically went, hey, I'm looking for people to commission / to help me with my demo reel. Is anyone out there? And I have had almost 50 responses in the space of about 3-4 hours. So and a lot of them are actually more people referring other people, not them trying to say, oh, pick me. It's literally just they retweeted it and everything. So if you aren't so confident about editing yourself and you really want it, you can outsource via Twitter at this point, is from what I've experienced at this point.
Fire and Brimstone says, Twitter helpful? I'm genuinely flabbergasted.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's really cool too. I'll have to check out his video later on as well about learning to master your own material, because I have a decent understanding about it, but I feel like there's more that I can do to kind of add that little extra flair or touch to the stuff that I put out as well, such as just general EQing. You know, I know how to do that as far as instruments go, but vocals I'm still a little lost on.
Right.
Well, good information. I did put the link in chat, and I'm going to make sure to put it on the podcast and the YouTube if anybody wants to check out Crown Stag stuff. All right, let's continue.
That's step 1, have a product. Step 2, I encourage you to have a website. Now, my website is crownstagvoiceover.co.uk. I built that on Squarespace. And again, I'll put that in the description. Squarespace for me was a fairly easy choice because it's a templated website domain. It gave me a lot of easy things. I'm not a website designer, developer, web developer. I don't know how to do all of that stuff. However, using Squarespace and just a very light amount of research into it, it made it a really simple thing to create a very professional looking website. I get compliments on it all the time, and post a lot of my content, my audio content that I've put out to clients on that website. And what that website essentially becomes is a repository of information. And this will come into play later. But it is something that instead of you firing out 2 or 3 demos at a time, you can direct people to your website. And showing that you have a professional quality website along with professional content on that website, again, just adds credibility to you as the voiceover artist. So that's step 2.
Okay. We've talked about this. I've had my domain forever, but I've yet to have a website built. I really need to get off my butt and do that.
Yeah, I've been looking at Squarespace since we started this podcast. Of because YouTube likes to have a habit of giving you Squarespace ads all the time in England. And I'm like going, because I've heard about it, and then there was also Wix, and then there was also WordPress, and I was kind of going, okay, which one? But now he's saying Squarespace, I'm like, right, I'm sold, I'm good. Yep, okay, we'll go with that one. We'll do that then.
Yeah. But I mean, having it essentially, it turns into your digital business card. Very, very important thing to have. I can totally see this being a good tool if you're trying to get somebody to hire you. So good info for step 2.
I was also going to say it helps in regards to he covers this later, but it's one thing that kind of links with that is like, you don't want to just send like a massive audio file and it might take forever for someone to actually listen through that, and then you can just kind of go to my website and see all of my stuff there, sort of thing. And they're going, yeah, that
Right.
would be really helpful. That actually might be a good idea. I might actually put some money into this. Right, okay.
And not only that too, but say you're just wanting to send off your demo reel, you're also sending everything that you've done essentially, or everything that you've listed, so they can peruse that in their own free time or interest, which will help you out in turn. You know, it gives them more of a more samples to look into, and will help you out in the long run.
More opportunities for somebody to review your resume, or your work. 100%. All right.
The next thing that you're going to need to know is who to market to, where to market to. Now, predominantly, and I'm just going to list these by industry and then I'll go through as individual, okay? Predominantly, the industries that I market to are marketing and advertising organizations. I'm counting my fingers here. Media production companies, media companies, online media, which is a slightly different genre, but I'm listing these based on the search engines that I use, and again, I'll come into those in a second. Media production companies, entertainment companies, games development companies, a little bit lower down that list. You have to niche it down a little bit more into who you look at there. Essentially, you're looking at any industry that you feel will use audio production or media production or advertising or commercial or something along those lines. Depends where you're looking for it, but it's those types of industries. I wouldn't really look at public relations or IT companies. While they may use voiceover for some of their products, they will go to a media production company or a marketing company to find that. So those organizations, those specializations in company type, are where most other organizations will go to source people like you. So those are the industry types. Told you this is going to be a bit of a long one.
All right. Should we, obviously there's an understanding there, because it's we want to look for the people that would want to do it at the lowest cost possible. That's what I'm getting out of that. Yeah, because if you go to anybody who has a giant budget, then they're going to use voices.com or casting sites or a third company to recruit people. So I think so far so good.
I don't know. I found it weird that video games companies were lower, but that was just my brain when I first heard that.
I think it's big. I think he's talking about specifically what he does. I think he prefaced it a little bit, but I'm not sure whether he put enough emphasis on. I think that's just what he goes for, because I think he says he primarily does marketing and things like that. Which especially reaching out to them individually, if you're going for marketing, does make sense. But again, just from what I've seen, I haven't been voice acting for very long, but with what I've seen a lot of more games companies, things like this, and even books going to casting websites to find their actors rather than having their actors come directly to them.
Okay.
Yeah. We've all seen the calls on Twitter. Those are mostly probably the companies that you could be targeting with your stuff. Because they're looking for somebody that they can find on their own without having to contract somebody else to get it.
I guess it's depending on what you want to go for yourself, you need to tailor your approach of marketing to that area, I guess is what he's saying.
Yeah.
And then find within that area the sectors in that area that you need to be putting yourself forward for first in that way. I hope that made sense.
Burnham says massive demand in the UK for his kind of accent in marketing / advertising.
Oh yeah, I've definitely heard his voice somewhere.
He's definitely got an ad voice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's continue.
So then we're on to who you look at. And the list here is quite vast. Now, you would be looking at people in creative roles, so creative directors, creative developers potentially in the in certain fields, creative content managers, people creative. Search for creative individuals. They tend to be the people that are behind the content creation. Content creation, there's another one. Look at media producers, media designers, media project managers. Those individuals seem to have quite a lot of sway when it comes to this. Audio engineers, voice directors, voice talent agents, copywriters. There are a whole list of people. And actually, what I'll do is I'll put a list of all the people, job titles that I search for again in the comment section. So go and check that out. And where I find these individuals, I use, and I've talked about this before, I use LinkedIn. Now, if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, it's essentially it's a social media site for professionals. So it's business users talking about various business things. You're not going to find content on there like you would find on Facebook or maybe Twitter, something along those lines. It's a little bit more professional. But I use a paid-for service called Sales Navigator. And again, in the description. It's about £30 a month, but what that does is that gives you a far deeper insight into the names, the jobs, email addresses, contact numbers sometimes of these individuals. You can create folders of different specialisms in different industry categories, and you can farm that information. Now, something that I'll tell you exists, whether you decide to use it or not, there are platforms out there that you can engage that plug in to LinkedIn. LinkedIn don't like this, but they plug into LinkedIn and essentially they will skim the data for you. Instead of you doing something one by one, you can use these plugins. And these plugins aren't cheap, but you can use them and they'll skim the data for you and essentially farm that data and put it into a spreadsheet for you.
I'm going to stop right there. Obviously, Cold Read does not condone the use of anything that LinkedIn does not recommend. Please do not do so without considering the risk.
Don't get yourself into trouble. Yeah, no.
Don't get us into trouble.
Yeah, don't get us into Yeah, the only reason I make a face is because every British student has when you reach a certain age has always gets told, make a LinkedIn account, do it. It's big in the UK, and it's just hearing that, and I'm there going, oh dear, I should have listened. I should have actually done something with that.
I saw the word LinkedIn come up, and I looked over, and you were like half off the mic, half gone.
No, it's just that thing of. It's a website that is so used in the UK at the very least that when you're a student you kind of go, oh, it's mainstream, I don't want to whatever. But now here being 25ish and actually doing something I want to do, it's kind of like, oh damn, yeah, no, now I see the benefits of this. So I know what he's talking about, ironically enough now.
It's really fascinating that he brings that up too, because like I'm familiar with LinkedIn. I use it myself, but not for anything voice acting wise. And it makes sense to use it because it's a career. It's a full-time job. It's fine. But Jeff earlier this week on Twitter put out a poll asking if people believed that using LinkedIn for voice acting was beneficial. And a majority of the responses said no.
Interesting.
I personally thought, like, from a business aspect or marketing aspect, that it would be beneficial because it's essentially like having another resume. Yeah. But yeah, the fact that a lot of people are saying no just kind of threw me for a loop. So I'd be curious to know from someone else who did say no why they think that is.
It could be new users. It could be somebody who just hasn't actually explored that.
Or it could be the fact that obviously Stag does marketing and does more sort of commercial stuff, which is more tailored towards business, which is what LinkedIn is more known for. That might be the reason why it works so well for him in this instance. Because a lot of the people on Twitter, at the very least, might be looking more for like animation, video games, like this sort of like audiobooks, things like that, more character-driven things, which might be why they are saying no, because LinkedIn is marketed as more of a serious business type thing, which can put off a lot of creatives in a weird way, actually, because it's seen as this sort of official, very non-flexible type thing. But I think from the way he went on to explain how he uses it, I'm more leaning towards, I may not throw all my eggs in that basket, but I think I will at the very least give it a go. Because if I can actually get in contact with like heads of projects and being someone who makes their own projects as well and has tried to get into media things or talking to the relevant people, it might be better, because when you've got a big company, you'll likely not get to the person if you just ring them up or if you do something like that. But if you can find them on LinkedIn, you can message them directly, which might be easier.
The reality is, what do you have to lose in this point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue.
And I'm mentioning that because it saves a significant amount of time if you're able to use one of these tools. As I say, LinkedIn doesn't particularly like that you can use these tools, and they do, put efforts in to try and stop you using them. But for the time being, you're paying for a service, and if you can get it and you can afford it, then again, I would probably say it's worth it in the long run to be able to have that efficiency in getting those contacts. So we've covered what you need to start off with, your website, where to find these individuals, what industry to look for in these individuals, and now we're going to look at what does your marketing actually consist of. Now, over 2020 and so far into 2021, things are picking back up in the industry worldwide. A lot of these organisations had people on furlough, a lot of people redundant, studios were shutting down left, right and centre. Not a great time. Not a great use of your time to spend all that time, dumb sentence, cold calling. And that's essentially what a lot of this comes into. Now, the cold calling aspect of this is relatively simple, and in the very, very rare case do you get someone negatively respond to that cold call. Hi, my name is Neil. I'm a professional voiceover artist or a professional voice actor. You'll predominantly speak to a receptionist if you just cold call a random production house. However, if you use the tools that I've talked about, you can sometimes get the direct dial of the person that you're looking for. Now, calling these people out of the blue can be a little bit poor taste. However, an introductory email is always a nice thing. And my introductory emails are always very light, very short, and it leaves the control in the other person's hands. So I tend to say, hi, my name is, I really hope you don't mind me reaching out. I found your details on LinkedIn. This is what I do for a living. Here's a link to some of my samples if you'd like to go to it. Some people don't like to click links. Some businesses don't let you click links. Here's a link to my work, which takes me to my website. Here's a link to my YouTube channel so you can see my booth. Or if you would prefer, I can send you some samples. Now, I always leave it up to them to whether I actually send them some samples, and there's a reason behind this. If you just send out 2-3 megabit file, it's your commercial demo. Some people are not in an area in the world where their internet is all that good, but imagine what that does to their home computers, their servers, whatever it is, if you are one of 100 people that day to do the same thing. It becomes a pain for them, and in my experience, they don't like that. If they want it, they will ask for it. So providing them the option is quite a nice thing. And again, whether you're sending out your basic studio demo, your self-produced demo, or your professional demo, give them the option of either visiting your website or any other online content you might have, and also being able to send them your demo at their request. So that's where and how you market, and doing that on an individual basis, while personable. And absolutely, you want to be personal and you want to be specific to the person and the industry that you're working on. That's really key there. You can, again, look at platforms like MailChimp is one, so you can send out a mail shot. Google Workspace has one. I think Google Sheets as well has one. You can do mail merges, Outlook, all that sort of stuff. If you've got the data, you know, me now, having been in this for a long, long time, I've got thousands and thousands of contacts, and I need to, you know, have a way to manage all of those people. If I want to send out 100 emails to people that are in India because of a particular project I've worked on, I'm just going to put a mail shot together. And that's just being honest. I'm not going to go through 100 people because that's an afternoon. That's a day's work where I could be doing something else. Again, it's about making your time more efficient. So again, I'll put links to Google Workplace and Google Sheets and stuff in the description. These are things that you can do.
All right, so that's a lot to unpack real quick.
Go
ahead.
Something that came to something while it's still in my head was about the cold calling is I'm surprised he doesn't have too many negative reactions, because definitely in the UK, cold calling is a frowned upon practice. You shouldn't just call people. So what he then said about sending an email is good. I think personally, I'd always just recommend you only go with the email. If the person then wants to call you, then that's fine. But personally, I just recommend going with the email, because, you know, if they are part of a company, something like this, they're still going to have to go through that email. They're still going to have to look at it. Otherwise, well, they're not particularly running a very good business if they're just going through their emails and not looking at them. But yeah, it was just something I wanted to mention is cold calling. I think you're setting yourself up to seem almost aggressive, which many people will not like.
I agree. I'm the type of person, that would not like to be cold called.
No.
No. Well, so I feel like I agree with the email statement. I think instead of calling people, I feel like email is a little bit less formal, I guess, or aggressive, as you said. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you, well, in my head, the way I think of it is leaving the door open. You send them, say, hey, this is what I do. If you would like to set up a time to chat about this in case you have any projects that might need my services, you can contact me here. That leaves the door open for them to reach back out to you, and even if it's just out of curiosity, it's still there. If you simply say, hey, here's what I do, here's my demo reel, goodbye. Like that's just, you open the door, you throw the mail at the guy and you slam it shut. Like that's not that's not a very good practice to employ there. So yeah, I feel like when it comes to doing the email, you definitely want to make sure that you leave it open-ended, so that if they do have a curiosity, if they do have a project that needs somebody for it, you're available, and you let them know that you're available to talk.
It also, and I think this can actually be like applied to many things in the creative industry anyway, in that you research the company you are talking to, because if that having that personable touch shows that you've taken the time to actually look at their stuff, to read through what the company's about, and that is more likely from as a sort of getting your foot in the door in these big massive companies. It makes it seem like you care, you gave a damn. So being able to add that little bit in, just that little bit of flavor, can often make or break whether or not someone opens an email or not. In a weird, in some cases. Also, I think just to add on the thing with the cold calling, if a company, like if you're on LinkedIn and there isn't an email or there isn't any other way to contact a company, because sometimes they'd rather not gatekeep, but some companies don't like to have so much out there in regards to, they might be a private company that need to work on their own thing and usually get commissioned through being called. I think those are those opportunities where you can, I think it's feasibly saying, if there is no other option and you are respectful, polite, simply saying, I found you on LinkedIn, I couldn't find any other information to contact you, so I hope this is all right, but I just wanted to say, hey, I am who I am. If there is a preferred method that you would like, just broach that door. Don't be afraid to call if it's the only option to get to your foot in the door, but don't go in expecting to be able to throw your stuff at it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think researching a company or a product prior to getting in talks with someone is a pretty common practice. I mean, even in a regular day job situation, it's always recommended that you do a little bit of research into the place you're trying to apply to, essentially, because it will give you a significant advantage over everyone else to show, hey, I looked into this and I know such and such about the company or the product. Like that, people respect that. Even even in the instances in which last week I have started doing interviews for a new co-host for this podcast, and I did send them along the YouTube links to all of our previous episodes. I said, watch it if you have time, no pressure. Let's set up a time to talk. And 2 of the 3 people did watch it and actually asked me questions about it based on some of the episodes that they had watched, such as
which ones did they watch?
I don't know, but like one person asked about what we do as far as the intros go, like how does that work? I think the other person asked I'm drawing a blank now, but in any case, yeah, just a small little personable detail will help you out so much.
Yeah.
All right, video's got about 4 minutes left, so let's finish this one up.
Okay.
So, you've got your demo, your website, LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, some of these plugins, and the Google elements. And the last bit of marketing, and this is one of the biggest things, really. You don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. If you've sent something to someone, you want to be able to follow up with something relevant to that person. Now, I tend to send out marketing to an individual between every 6 and 8 weeks, something like that, just as a check-in. Remember me, that sort of stuff. The people that I've worked with time and time again come back to me time and time again. And they are your best advocate, because one of the things that I would always say to anyone who has secured work is, who else do you know that could use me? Who could you refer me to? I'd really appreciate it if you could let the other people in the industry know that I provide good work. That gets me work. That is the best bit of marketing that you can have. As a very real example, I did a 10-second job for a program called Crime Stoppers. It was just an overdub for a program called Crime Stoppers. That led to a radio advert that I did that was maybe about a minute and a half, which led to another radio advert. And it was all just people passing my details around. And that other radio advert was maybe about another minute and a half, 2 minutes. That netted me those, let's call it 4 minutes all in total. That netted me as a profit more than any other work that I did that week. And that was just through referrals. That was through me marketing to someone, them coming back to me being positive, doing all the stuff, doing a good job, and then that leading on to something else. That's the best bit, and that's the most important bit of marketing. Always do a good job, and if you do, people will come back to you. And when you do that good job, ask who else. Who else can I help with? Who else can I speak to? Who else could you put in contact with? I would really appreciate it. All that stuff. That, in a longer nutshell, is pretty much marketing, step by step. It's not, reinventing the wheel. It's about looking at what you can produce. Is it relevant? I keep doing this for the person that you're trying to contact. So don't just send out a, hello, Mr. Insert Name. Try and make it a bit more personable. Tell them why you're contacting them, how you contacted them, and what you do, and leave the option to them whether A, they want to respond, or B, what content it is that they want to receive from you. Now, I will warn you, and again, this is like the 0.001%. When I do email marketing, 99.999% of people come back to me positively. I have had, I think in the last 5 years, maybe 5 truly crappy email responses, which has just made me think like, do you need a cuddle? They are like really bad. Don't get downhearted with it, because it really can. At least for me, if I get a bad email, doesn't matter how many good emails I got that day, that bad email, you know, it gets to me. What have I done wrong? Am I annoying someone else? Could I be doing something better? Just adjust. Adjust. If something comes back and you go, oh, do you know what? Good point. Adjust. But ultimately, you've got the content, you know where to look for the right people, you know how to contact them, and you've got a product to demonstrate to them. Hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully that is an easy step-by-step guide. Like I say, I'll put all the links and discount codes and anything else I can dig up from the sources that I use that'll make things a bit cheaper for you and a little bit easier for you as well. And remember, you can be a voiceover artist. I'll see you in the next video.
All right.
Very cool.
I love the information. I love the way that he breaks it down. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just he tackled a pet peeve of mine right at the end there. So I'll try and make this as concise as possible, as quick as possible.
Yeah.
But one of huge thing, physical acting, film acting, voice acting, all of this, whether it be email or in-person feedback, there's always those few really crappy responses that you get, and having received that and having actually stopped acting because of receiving so much of that in the past, it's really important. It's a really important message at the end there of don't let that stop you. Yeah, sometimes they do actually have some constructive criticism, but a lot of times it's just really bad advice, sometimes even from people that may sound like they know what they're doing, but perhaps they don't. And it's always, you've got to remember what you've done in the past. Maybe that isn't much, but say you've only done one project in the past, but they loved you, then it's, well, hang on, you know, I'm not terrible at this. And you've got to remember that and not let, you know, some of these really bad responses that you can get stop you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, all in all, it's a lot more information than we had when we first started. So big
I think
thank
we've all
you.
walked away with that. We've all walked away with a bit more knowledge of how to improve ourselves now, I think.
Yep.
Well, and we've always had the question of how do we market ourselves and how do we move forward. I think this is a great stepping step in order for us to get to that point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I look forward to having him on. Hopefully it'll be, you know, at some point soon. Yeah. It's awesome information. I'm looking forward to his other videos. Again, I just linked it again in our chat. If you want to go check out Crown Stag, good info, obviously has a good repository. We've all had bad reviews. We've all had bad critiques of people that are sitting here. And thankfully we are still here. Yeah, definitely, like Grimm said, don't let that get you down.
Keep going, no matter what happens. You, like he said, you can be a voiceover artist. You can keep going, because you will always have good and bad. You just gotta, and it's hard to not focus on the bad. Trust me, we know. But it's that thing of just sort of like one step in front of the other. Keep going. Learn to stop, but not step backwards or off the path. Just keep going, and don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. To quote my own intro. Hey, I gotta tell it to myself like daily at this rate. So.
I love it. Full circle. It's gonna be my turn to do the intro, so I wonder what trend am I gonna start this time around. I may just cheap out and figure out something quick, and we'll see what the next person comes up with. Because these
it's time to start your trilogy.
Yeah. No.
Well, that's helpful, considering I thought it was me next week, and I went, I am so busy.
No.
If it's not me, then it's fine.
No, it's me. It's me.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens. Again, special thanks to Crown Stag for allowing us. We got his permission to play this video. I think it was great so everybody could see it. Those of you on YouTube, make sure you follow him. Anybody listening to the podcast, if you have any ideas or if you have any files you want us to listen to or something to talk about, ColdReadthePodcast at gmail.com. Again, ColdReadthePodcast@gmail.com. We love to see this stuff. If you have any questions, we have a great network of people to talk to. So just keep them coming. We love all the comments. The search for the next guest will continue. So we'll see. Thank you again, Grimm, for stepping in. But until next time, everybody, keep rolling those tapes. Keep sending those auditions. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye. Drink water.